Hey guys, welcome to Clix Corner. Today I'm doing the first installment of a series I've been thinking about doing where I basically take keywords that are consistently good and keywords that are consistently bad and talk about whether Wizkids loves them or hates them. Now, I'm not really looking at keywords where they don't have a lot of support because there could be many reasons for that, but that will factor in certain places. Now, the first one I'm talking about is Black Lantern Core. Now this is a keyword that's very important to me. Anything that has anything to do with reanimation and zombies and stuff is a winner in my book. And, you know, I really like Blackest Night, and I'm quite a fan of the War of the Light set. And I really like this keyword. I really like the Black Lantern Core, but I've always felt that they're always a bit underpowered and they're always a bit disappointing when you actually play them. Now, obviously, these were destined to be a keyword that were never going to be as strong as they are in the comics. And I don't even mean in the terms of not being able to kill them or them reanimating or anything like that, because they were obviously never going to put anything like that in because, you know, you couldn't make a Black Lantern like haha Joker. But fundamentally, they've just never been as strong as they probably should be, and often they're overcosted, lack willpower, and have low numbers, and they always seem very disappointing. Now, when War of the Light came around, me and my friends basically all turned to each other and said, right, well, I'll pick a keyword, and then we'll collect that one. And I was going to take Black Lantern Core until I realised I'd be waiting until Wave 2 to get anything. And once I did, they were all going to be super rare, because with War of the Light, I was judging it, I wasn't buying anything, because at the time, I just could not afford that kind of thing. So that did mean I got a Necron in the end, but it also meant that getting super rares from the set was not a great idea. So in the end I went for Sinestro Core. That wasn't a great idea either. I'm probably about 0 and 7 playing Sinestro Core teams. At least Black Lantern Core have got me a couple of wins in the past. Now, if you have any suggestions for keywords that Wizkids love or Wizkids hate, then just let me know, drop them in the comments, and I'll get around to them. Now, honestly, I have a fair backlog of other keywords that I wanted to talk about. With this, Arkham Asylum, for example, may be one. Red Lantern Core is definitely going to be one of the ones that Wizkids love, and, you know, I'm going to talk about those. So, any of your suggestions will come after that, but I will probably get around to it. So, without further ado, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at every figure in this keyword, and I'm going to talk about the good bits and the bad bits about it, and why I think they are good or bad, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously with the Black Lanterns only really appearing in Blackest Night, they're only going to see rare support if there isn't like a Blackest Night sub-theme in the set. So for example, Zoom in a Flash set makes sense, or Harley Quinn in a Harley Quinn set makes sense, but you're never going to get a massive chunk of Black Lanterns in any random given set. And yeah, so that's why they don't get a lot of support, but the reason why it's never strong, that's more of a mystery to me. So I'm going to kick things off by talking about the ATA. Now obviously ATAs are 69. Obviously ATA is a golden age now, but so is all but one figure in the keyword. And the problem with the ATA is that the regeneration rules have changed. So when a character using this team ability uses regeneration, its minimum result is 1. Now what they tend to do with these when they've errated them is you increase the roll by 1 or decrease the roll by 1 respectively, depending on which effect you originally had, having a minimum or having no minimum. And no one's going to let you house rule it so that it's now you get +1 to your regen roll for 1 point per character using it, because that's OP as hell. So this is kind of like a dead thing unless you can come to an agreement on what to do with it. But yeah, anyhow. So before I click on anti-monitor, I'm basically going to say I'm obviously not going to go through every click of the Colossal's dial. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what I think is good and bad about them. In the case of Anti-Monitor, I am going to talk through all of his special powers, but I think I'd, like, die before I got through all of Necron's, so it's probably not a good idea to do that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about what I think is good about him, and what I think is bad about him. And I'm going to maybe talk about some of the discussion in units as well if I remember to do so. My memory is atrocious, so that's not always likely. So first of all, is a 10 range figure with quintessence, Black Lantern core keyword and cosmic keyword. Cosmic keyword's not amazing for making teams with, but it's certainly possible. And its traits include improved targeting, ignores hindering terrain, ignores characters, which is always good. He can use the multi-attack ability like the old Anti-Monitor, and indeed like many other Colossal. Each time an opposing character is KO'd, place 1 battery token on this card. If Anti-Monitor is 900 points, place 2 battery tokens instead. Now if you're anything like me, that's the closest you're ever going to get to having a Black Lantern battery. Especially with them being out of stock on Troll and Toad. That is with cards. I'd rather have it with a card than without. I'd rather not have it without a card, you know. Anyhow, give Anti-Monitor a free action and remove a battery token from this card. Modify the combat values of a friendly character within range and line of fire by +1 until your next turn. So that's any combat values, that's any friendly character. So that could easily be Necron, or well, anybody, you know. And you can make some mad stats with that because it doesn't have any restriction to it at all. You just need to remove the battery token from it. Honestly, it might be slightly more difficult to get battery tokens if your opponent doesn't have like some kind of swarm team, but if they do and they have like loads of bystanders or something, you're gonna rock up battery tokens. Now, Anti-Monitor can use Pulse Wave. This is his special attack power. That last one was his special speed power, which is always the last clicks, all clicks but the first 2 on each of his dials. His starting attack power is Antimatter Wave, which gives him Pulse Wave, and when he does, the area of effect is equal to 5 plus the number of battery tokens on this card. So that could easily be a massive range Pulse Wave, really. I mean, 5's already big for Pulse Wave, so yeah. And then on his last click, he has, it's a real monster click, actually. Especially considering how poor the ones leading up to it are. He can use Regeneration, he has Stop. When he uses Regeneration, you may remove any number of battery tokens from this card, and all opposing characters within that square each dealt penetrating damage equal to the amount healed. So that's pretty damn good, because it means you're going to do at least 3 damage, 3 penetrating damage, to all characters within however many squares. The problem is, with the new regeneration rules, the best you're going to do is get to here, and I kind of feel like I'd rather stay here, because this is one hell of a click and this isn't. I mean, obviously he's incredible risk of dying, but he's only on energy shield here anyway. I suppose it can stop on this again since it's not once per turn, once per game even, but yeah. My main gripes with this dude, my friend John went to a Nationals once, bought this the night before, played it, and well, he won 1 game, let's put it that way. And there's a few reasons why I think this could be, and one of them is this phase and teleport, which was also a problem on the old Anti-Monitor, the lack of like move and attack, because this 1 click of Hypersonic is the only move and attack he has on his entire dial. Some things people are griping with on the units is these empower and enhancement clicks, and they really just don't think that you need it on a figure this big. And to some extent I agree with you, because yeah, you're not going to be powering anyone up because this is going to be your main guy, but it's always good to have these because you never know when they're going to come in useful, turning like pogs and stuff into real beaters. And it is obviously incredibly comic accurate if you actually read it. So, you know, ultimately I don't think Black Lantern Anti-Monitor is bad, although his defense values can be really shocking. I mean, he starts off with 18s, with a couple of 19s on his top 2 dials, but he's got a whole bunch of 17s and a lot of 16s there. So yeah, he's hit and miss, but I suppose all Colossals are. Fundamentally, I don't really know how to rate Colossals because it's like, I don't know, how good are they going to be? They're going to be as good as they are. Next, I'll talk about Harley Quinn from the Gotham Girls set, but I did most of my talk about this figure in my Harley Quinn set review, so if you want to check that out, that would be great. But basically what I think with this one is, well, she's got the death trait, which is always cool, and she's got penetrating poison on her 5, 6, and 7 clicks, which is cool as well, because she's part Red Lantern. She has really big stats and really good powers at the start of her dial. And, you know, for the rest of the dial, I guess, you know, she's definitely not bad, but she just doesn't appeal to me as much as I'd want it to for me to be interested in getting it from this set that I have no interest in as a super rare. But ultimately, this is a good figure, don't get me wrong. This is definitely a good. So, half and half, definitely good. Black Lantern Zoom. Let's pretend this exists for a second. Because, alright, I think I said this in my Gotham Bell set, but we can be lucky that this isn't Prime at least, because these guys do not exist. Black Lantern Zoom is more expensive than Necron, because he is Zoom, he is Black Lantern, he's Super Rare, and he's Prime. So, major collectability there. I did have a chance to get one, I didn't act on it fast enough, I'm never going to get one anymore. So, anyhow, he has a Speed Force trait from the Flash set, which basically, when he moves at least one square and hits one or more adjacent characters, you may place a speed token on him, and that increases his speed value, and then he's got other effects to do that with, later. Remove a speed token from his card and choose either Exploit, Weakness, or Flurry. If you do, he can use Blades and the Chosen Power as a free action instead of making a close combat attack while he used Hypersonic Speed this turn. So that is an unbelievable power. That means you can Hypersonic with Blades penetrating or Blades twice, depending on, you know, what you're coming up against, what you're hitting. His defense power on these last 3 clicks is Zoom can use Regeneration and Toughness. When he uses Regeneration, increase the result of the roll of the D6 roll by half the number of speed tokens on this card, maximum 6. So, what that's gonna mean is, how I would take that in the new rules is it's increased the result of the D6 roll. So, if you rolled it and it was a 6, then you could increase it by, say, 3. If you had 3 speed counters, and then half that, so half 9, so 4, so 5, so you'd heal 5 clicks. That's how I would take that anyway, but maybe not, maybe other people would disagree with me. But that means he can get right back to his top dial, which means this is a really good regen, which means he's really benefited from the new rules, and I think this guy's really good. Finally, on clicks 3 through 7, he has Steel Energy. When an opposing character is KO'd, you heal him with 1 damage and place a speed token on him. So all in all, he's quite well rounded. He's only 120 points, and his defense looks a little bit ratty because of the 17s, and he's relying on super senses and a bit of toughness at the end and regen and back up basically. But you can't deny the fact that this is an obscene figure with great speed values, great damage great attack values. I mean, bad damage values, but he's got blades all the time, so it's like full dial blades, so you can't really argue with that. What I can argue with is speedster keyword. I think that's dumb. I think if it was just DC zoomy characters, Flash and that, speedsters, that would be okay, but I don't think it takes place in Marvel because, I don't know, it's just not really a thing for me. It's a type of power. I don't know, you don't get strong person as a keyword, do you? Next, we'll talk about Captain Boomerang. Now, pound for pound, this is probably the best figure in the keyword that's obtainable, at least, in my personal opinion. Now, I still don't have one of these, but my friend Dave has sorted me out one. And my friend Dale, who was a national champion twice, maybe 3 times now, I'm not sure. He bought like an entire the Flash gravity feed for one of these. He was buying random ones, he wasn't pulling it. Dave bought one, he pulled it. Dale ended up buying the grav feed. He got one in the end, but yeah. So you've basically got multiple options here. You've got 55 points Psychic Blast style, which is like the living it's supposed to be the living Captain Boomerang, but fundamentally either has the Black Lantern Core keyword. So he's like Psychic Blast range attacker, and the other is the Black Lantern one. So you've got your Steel Energy here, your Regeneration, your Stealth, your Blades, your Shape Change. It's again a really good dial. Or you can play both for 110 points, 115 points, sorry. So when it first came out, it was like mind-blowing, like 10 clicks on this figure, like, was just insane. And yeah, it was just like, yeah, you know, it doesn't have the numbers or the damage output or anything like that to be like game breaking for that, but I certainly would have played him at 115 points on a constructed team with some kind of buffs to him. I think he'd have been awesome. So basically, Captain Boomerang can use Steel Energy. This is his attack power on these 3 clicks. It's a shame he doesn't have it on this one, but I guess whatever. You can use it with close or range combat attacks, and when the opposing character is killed, you heal him with 1 damage and remove an action token from him, so that's pretty cool. That's like standard Black Lantern Steel Energy, but you see variations of it on every figure. So, now we're into War of the Light, which is where we get the bulk of the keyword, at least the bulk of the obtainable ones. Now, fundamentally, I used to think, wow, they've barely put any in. But when you look at Black Lantern Corps and look at things like Star Sapphires and Indigo Tribe, yeah, they did pretty alright by Black Lanterns in sheer numbers here, so that's not something I'm going to complain about. So, one thing I don't really rate anymore is the Black Lantern Reanimates, but for 35 points, you can't really argue with them. The thing I don't like about them is the lack of move and attack, and the fact that they only have 1 click of blades, but they are 35 point flyers. They rely on a click of Steel Energy to stay alive, basically. On the last 3 clicks, they have Steel Energy. When an opposing character is killed, heal them of 1 damage, so that's just sort of a basic one. And the most important part about them is their trait. When a friendly character with the Black Lantern Corps kills an opposing character with an attack, you may place a War of the Light Black Lantern Reanimate on click 2 in its square and add it to your force. Now, back in the day, if I had loads of these, I'd have chucked them on. I'd have chucked, like, these and a Flash on a team, maybe with Lissa Drac or whatever, and just being happy with that, because the ability to just turn your opponent's figures into Black Lanterns is pretty cool. The problem is these are really hard to find, even nowadays. I mean, they're out of stock on Troll and Toad. They're always, like, anything War of the Light is incredibly expensive on eBay for no reason, because people don't know how to price things. And, yeah, these are mad. So, I've got, I think, about 3 of these now. And yeah, they're pretty cool dudes. I like the sculpt. Oh, there we go. I like the sculpt. If we can just get that loaded, there we go. Don't worry, guys. I'll be getting a new laptop. Well, I've already ordered it, so it should be on that soon. I really like the sculpt. The Black Lantern Reanimates and the Aquaman have like a lot of greenery around the face, which kind of reminds me of the old Lego Pirates. Sometimes they would come in like with like green sort of skeletons and stuff. I don't know what it is about it, but I think it's really cool. Next we'll talk about Hal Jordan Black Lantern. Now this is definitely the first one that I've talked about, which is just bad. I mean, for 99 points you can have a 16 defense with toughness. Yay, thanks, I suppose. On his middle clicks, that is the ones between his first and last, he has Steel Energy and heal him with 1 when an opposing character is KO'd. And his damage power is he and adjacent friendly characters with the Black Lantern Corps keyword can use willpower. Now this is a fairly standard Hal Jordan power. There's one of these in the Orange Lanterns, which is a bit better than this one in my opinion. But the problem with him is he really is so expensive. He's 99 points for a 16 defense with toughness. I'd never felt comfortable playing that, but I'd give it a go because there's so many people on this team that could use the willpower that I do think he could be quite helpful. I do know that the Hal Jordan Orange Lantern one can or could at least be very helpful just for giving everyone willpower. But it's keeping them alive, which I suppose also isn't very difficult, but it's only adjacent friendly characters, so he does have to be there with the people who are probably fighting hand to hand because they're all bladesy dudes. All in all, I think this is a bad figure. I will eventually pick one of these up, but only when I get it valued at like nothing. Like I'd take one of these for free is basically it. Now Lissa Drac is one of the best figures with the keyword. 91 points is a bit expensive for your prob nowadays. Well, it's very expensive for your prob, but the fact is you can use it regardless of range or line of fire, but can only target people with any keyword she has when they attack a character. Now, she has Black Lantern Corps, Monster, and Sinestro Corps, so she was a really good one for me because I got given one for free very early in Black Lantern in War of the Light, and she works with Black Lanterns and Sinestro Corps, so that was really cool. She's also got Perplex, and anyone she targets with it to put the values down, any friendly character can use Precision Strike against that character that turn, and she has 3 damage on 2 of the clicks where she has that. So that's pretty cool. She can also use Barrier if you really need it in order to keep her safe, because this, regardless of range or line of fire, prob is like sticker at the back of the map, which is what makes the perplex not amazing, especially with the minimum range of perplex not being like, if it wasn't like an insane like 10 or something like that, which is obviously never going to, then it would be more useful. But yeah, and on the last 3 clicks, when she's trying to stay alive, she's got some steal energy and some exploit weakness. Now, I used to have the old Lyssidrak, and don't think I ever played it, and this was a big step up. She is a must play on Black Lantern cores and Sinestro cores these days. She looks a bit expensive, but it depends how many hours she puts in, and then if she does a lot of fighting at the end, it's going to be okay. Aquaman. Now, I think with the generation of what is good for the points nowadays, I think Aquaman is one of the best in the keyword pound for pound now, because he still has really good numbers. He's still rocking 10s and 4 damage. He still has blades in the middle of his dial, exploit weakness for a bit with that, and regen at the end. His damage, his damage is always a 3 or more, because he's always got the blades as an option, or 2 penetrating. He's got a bit of flurry at the end. The 17 defense with toughness, I'd rather have an invulnerability at the first dial, but with this shape change, it's kind of like a mini impervious with the toughness, so that's not too bad. Anyhow, so the first thing I want to talk about is Aquaman can use steal energy. When an opposing character is KO'd, heal Aquaman of 1 damage, and all clear squares within 1 square of that character are water terrain. Now, that doesn't sound like much, and to be honest, I forgot he did this for the longest time, but it really quickly floods the map. I'm not even going to joke about it. Especially if you were like playing against a Pog Spawn team or something like that, it would flood the map so quickly. And then this helps with your undead sharks, which once per game you can give them a power action to place up to 4 undead shark bystander tokens as described on this card. And then you get +2 to your action total. Now you're going to get -1 anyway for having used the power action. You place them each adjacent to different opposing characters within range, so you have to be able to put 4 adjacent to a different character to be able to place 4. And basically what they do is they're a basic blades piece. They're a bit slow, I think, but they die at the end of your turn if you don't have them in water, which is fair enough. And to be honest, if they get a good blades in, it will worth having anyway. But if you can get them in the water, it's just helpful, really. He's also a swimmer transporter, which is also cool, and for some reason he's got 5 range. I mean, sure, why not? So yeah, I think Aquaman is a really good one. Again, I'd have played this guy with Fear itself a Tumor back in the day, if I'd ever gotten one. Now this is the next really bad one. Ooh, you know, I was saying I don't want to play a 16 defense toughness figure for 99 points. Well, I don't want to play something with no defense power at all for 130 points. He's got stealth and phase and teleport as well, so he's got no movement attack. He used a sharpshooter, which explains why his steal energy is only with ranged attacks instead of close attacks. It would be nice to have both, but fair enough, you're just going to shoot him in the face anyway, if they stood next to you. When an opposing character is KO'd, heal him of 1 damage, fair enough. And if that character was KO'd by Jon Stewart, which is unlikely, is a higher point value. After actions resolve, remove all action tokens from him, which means 1 because you're not going to push a figure this week. And that's him killing Mogo. That he's actually killing Mogo, and that's the best he can do. But he does have some generic keywords that there are always going to be much better options for, I think. It's nice to have a bit of outwit at the end, I suppose, but yeah. Anyhow, this damage power is Precision Strike and Range Combat Expert, and if the target of the attack isn't adjacent to any opposing character, damage dealt can't be reduced below 2. Now that is definitely cool, and if you can explode the stealth as his defense power, then sure. But 130 points, no willpower, and no defense powers is massive no in my book. I would only ever play this on a really big game where he really is going to go unnoticed. Aben Sur, on the other hand, is one that I've long-term liked. I think for 109 points now, he may be a bit expensive, and he is one of the only figures in the keyword that doesn't have steal energy. But he's pretty cool. So essentially he's running shot pulse wave and outwit. So that's a cool combo. Then he's got 5 clicks of prob, and his first 4 clicks he has toughness, If someone misses him with an attack, he can use invulnerability instead. And if an opposing character rolls a critical miss against him, he gets impervious instead. So he can easily rock up a bigger defense value if a bigger defense power if you knock his defense value up a bit, especially on these 3 clicks where he has that with prob, or if you can outwit something that's going to make someone easier to hit him. Now that running shot does turn into stealth, but he can still be a sniper, I suppose, and the pulse wave is always going to be helpful anyway. I think Abencer is pretty good. And he has also got a little counter effect. Opposing characters that didn't begin the game on the map modify their combat values by -2 when targeting or being targeted by Abencer during an attack. So, I think that's pretty cool, but if you're anything like me in Golden Age, this isn't going to get used because there's not a whole bunch of sideline business going on in my Golden Age games, but you guys might be different. Next is Firestorm. Now, I long term thought this was the best figure in the keyword, but I'm starting to think now that he's degenerated with age a bit too far. Now, for 140 points, you have got a 4 damage energy exploder with, although that doesn't matter now, with running shot and energy shield. He's going to be hard to hit with the 19, but he hasn't got any damage reducers, and he hasn't got any willpower either. Now, I think it would be unfair on, I mean, at least he's got some defense power, but it would be unfair on Jon Stewart if I didn't critique this guy now. I mean, Firestorm is still one of my favourites, and he's still probably one of the best figures in the keyword. But for 140 points, no willpower, no damage reducers, apart from the 3 clicks of toughness in the middle, I don't think he's amazing. This is running shot stealth, which is pretty good. A couple of other figures could do with that. If he is KO'd an opposing character of 75 points or more this game, he can use Outwit, which is pretty good. And he also has Steel Energy with close or range combat attacks. When an opposing character is KO'd, heal him with 1 damage. If he is healed either way this turn, he can use Perplex and Probability Control until the next turn. So if he actually heals, he gets a whole bunch of stuff, and if he actually kills someone, he gets a whole bunch more stuff. And then all of a sudden, when you're on these clicks here, you've got Running Shot, Outwit, Stealth. Outwit and Stealth is always a good combo. Perplex, Prob, Energy Shield, Energy Explosion. He's rocking some stuff. Or Pulse Wave. He's rocking some stuff. So, yeah, he can have a lot of powers going for him, but the problem is, he's just going to be a bit slow nowadays with no willpower. As is this guy, but we'll get onto that in a second. Now, this was a figure that I facepalmed the moment I saw it. As soon as I saw this on units, I thought, well, never mind that then. You've fucked it. It's terrible. Right. I want to talk about the good things about him. I'm going to talk about the things that people said to me when I said he was bad the day he got released on HC Realms, or the day he got previewed on it rather. He has traded Steel Energy with close or range combat attacks, and when an opposing character is KO'd, heal him with 1 damage, and if Spectre KO'd it, choose a standard power from that character's card, and he can use it for the rest of the game. Now, that is undeniably brilliant, and you can use it to get him a decent defense power, assuming he KOs someone good. I mean, I'll get onto that in a second. He's also got Pulse Wave on his last click and his first 4 clicks, and when he uses it and targets more than 1 characters, damage dealt to characters not on their starting click is increased by 1, and this will combo with his Steel Energy, because it is still a ranged combat attack, so everyone he hits he's going to heal up on. Problem is, it's barely worth healing him. Now, he does have Quintessence, so we don't need to worry about these crappy defense powers getting outwitted, and we don't need to worry about his lack of willpower, because he has willpower, unlike most of them. Now, as I say, the ability to steal a standard power is going to be good, because you could basically get Running Shot instead of this Sidestep, or Impervious instead of this, but for 225 points, I don't want to rely on a 17 defense with invulnerability. I don't care how much you can maybe heal back up with a good Pulse Wave, because if you just die in the first place, then it was pointless, wasn't it? He's also got a lot of 9s, a lot of 16s, and a lot of 17s even. You know, that's not good on a 225 point figure. And the Sidestep isn't going to help him a whole bunch either. So, yeah, I think this guy's going to have good games. He's going to be hit and miss. He's going to be a glass cannon. if I ever get one. This is why I'm speaking this way. I think as time goes by, he's only going to get worse, and I don't think he was ever amazing in the first place. If he kills multiple people with that pulse wave, I believe he gets as many standard powers as he kills, so you could get a whole bunch of stuff if you could. But I'm thinking that's only going to be likely on Pogs, and then you're probably not going to get much. And I think if he's facing down a good swarm, then he's going to go down before they all go down to a click where he can kill them off with 2 damage. But, I don't know, I'm willing to let him prove me wrong, but he's also unobtainable, so yeah. Next I'm going to talk about Gallius Z. Now I also long term again think this was one of the best figures, and probably still is. So he's a vampire dial, but there's not much information about how Gallius Z was portrayed in the comics, so I don't really know a whole bunch about it. Now this second trait, Despair of the Green Lanterns, is a bit like the 10th anniversary chases that I'm about to get into. When an opposing character rolls for leadership, shape change, or super senses, and the result is 1 to 4, modify his combat values by +1 until the end of your next turn. If that character has a Green Lantern Corps keyword, modify their combat values by -1 until your next turn. So that's really good. It's going to bump you up to a 12-18-5 or a 13-26 with penetrating damage on every click, 4 clicks of blades, and yeah, he's pretty strong. But the one thing he's missing again is willpower, and the one thing my Gallius Z is missing is one of his actual arms. I mean, I know he's got an arm coming out of his back, but he's actually missing one of his regular arms. And it came in the booster like that, and well, that's Wizkids for you. And I wasn't really bothered enough to try and get one. You know, it was valued down, so I wasn't really bothered enough to get another one. Now, let's talk about Black Hand. This is a 200 point figure that's again relying on 17 defense with invulnerability and no willpower this time. But if we just completely ignore the fact that he has a 200 point dial and look at him as an entity, he's a 10 click entity with Psychic Blast. Invulnerability is not a bad choice. He's got a fiddly defense power in case it's ever useful, so when an opposing character misses an attack, choose an opposing character within 10 squares in line of fire and modify that character's defense value by -1 until the end of your next turn. So that could be quite useful if you were ever going to need it. And he's also got a speed power. That's basically when a friendly character with a Black Lantern Corps keyword is healed because an opposing character is KO'd, increase the healing by 1. So that's pretty cool. But that's going to play a lot better if you can get this on a Black Lantern Corps team, obviously. And he can also give the character Steel Energy, and when an opposing character is KO'd, heal him with 1, so basic death. He's also got Shape Change. This isn't causing vulnerability isn't the best thing ever. Giving someone monster keyword is probably pretty good, because I believe he gives them keyword, does he? No, he doesn't. Okay, never mind that. Yeah, otherwise he's pretty cool. He's okay as an entity. He was nice as a budget one, having only been super rare. That was the nicest thing that I think they did for Black Lantern Corps during War of the Light was make the entity super rare, because everything else, like, you know, there's 2 other super rares and stuff, and all the other figures were garbage, so it's nice of them, plus a lot of people collecting them weren't going to get the Necron, so it was nice of them to throw us a bone and give us a cheaper entity, not that it was meant to be a proper one anyway. Now what can I say about Necron? Well, I can say that I've never played this guy at his full point values, but looking at dials, I don't rate this starting off 300 points plasticity, don't rate that, and I really don't rate this entire amount of this dial. And I have played it on this click before, and doing 3 target energy explosion from base with 4 damage was cool until you passed turn, and then all of a sudden you took this much damage, and then you were like, wow, I really wish I had some damage reducers on this 600 point figure. So yeah, I think those 2 dials are really shocking. I think with 2600 points, it depends on what you play against, what the dice rolls come out as, and how well you do. he does have a lot of regen in a lot of places, and a bit of mastermind is probably going to keep him alive for a while. Um, depending on if you've actually fielded any other stuff. But yeah, he has some incredibly awesome powers, which I can't really get into. He has one that essentially allows him to, well, it literally does allow him to, on one of his dials, copy one of the special powers from one of his other dials, and that's pretty cool. Now, he does have some 13s, but he isn't rocking anything as high as Spectre or Fing Fang Foom, which is a bit of a shame, especially since he starts off with a 12. He's even got 9s in various places, which are a bit of a shame, but all in all, I think, as I said earlier, I don't really know how to rate Colossals, and I think this guy is pretty good, but I'll have to play him at full value to find out, and I'm sure I'll get around to that one day. Now let's look at the 10th anniversary chases. My friend Dave pulled one of these one day when I was planning to buy out all of the 10th anniversary boosters that were left in our local Forbidden Planet, and then Dave did, and he pulled this and John Constantine, and I was a little bit heartbroken. If you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know why. Now, this Wonder Woman, I don't think it's as good as it used to be, especially with the Kingdom Come one. Well, when you compare it with the Kingdom Come one, the Red Sun one, and the Chase one that just came out, you know, she doesn't stack up. But she's still quite cool. She's a cool figure to have. She doesn't really have the numbers anymore, although she definitely did back in the day. When an opposing character rolls 1 or 2 for super senses, you can heal a 1. That's a trait. And on Clix 3, 5, 7, and 8 for some reason, she has Incapacitate as if she has a range of 6. When she does, instead of giving the target an action token, you may place them adjacent to Wonder Woman, and then she can make a free attack. Now she's got Steel Energy, so that's going to help her heal up to there. And you can Blades and Super Strength with it as well. So yeah, she's pretty cool. She's got Indomitable. But all in all, I don't think she really stacks up anymore. And, you know, I thought she did until I thought about those comparisons with other Wonder Women. And so ultimately, I kind of have to say she's a bad figure. I quite like the Batman though. This is the most expensive of the 10th anniversary chases. But it doesn't take long to understand why. I mean, this guy was probably so awesome back in the day. He has a 3 range, a bit of a standard Batman-y range. When an opposing character rolls a 1 or 2 for a shape change roll, you may heal him with 1 damage. This is what I was talking about with the Gallagher said thing earlier. He has Stealth and Leap Climb on his first 3 clicks, and then Leap Climb and then Stealth on his last 4. Batman can use Pulse Wave as if he had a range value of 8 on his second and third clicks. When he does, friendly characters that share a keyword with him reduce damage dealt to them by to 0. So that is awesome. He's got Black Lantern Corps and monster keywords. He's got good numbers for the point values. He's got, you know, Perplex, Outwit, Indomitable. He's probably got a fair bit in him. Even if his regen can only get him up to here now, which in many cases is okay, but I feel like you can tell a lot that figures were designed to regen all the way up sometimes. I think this is one of those. And the rule change has kind of killed a lot of dials like that. And lastly, we'll look at the Superman, which I think is the best of these 3 chases nowadays. I've just ordered one myself. And it's a 5 damage. He's rocking 5 damage on his first 5 clicks in many ways. And then a 4 on his click after that, and 3's on the other 2. Now, 5 damage for 170 points is not to be sniffed at. He's Indomitable, he's got really solid numbers at the start at least. He drops down to 17s, eventually a 16, and he's got a weird 9 in the middle of his attack there. But yeah, he's got the damage values. He can put this 9 up to 11 even if he's close combat, or he can just chance it with a Psychic Blast. And this last 3 clicks power is regen and toughness, and it can't be countered. So it would be nice if he had a stop click, but I don't want the world to rely on stop clicks for figures to be good, and this was probably at a time when stop clicks weren't amazing yet, like they weren't commonplace, so I understand that. And when someone rolls a 1 or 2 for leadership, you may heal him with 1 damage. Now, I think it's a shame he drops to a 15 at the end, and that this isn't a stop click, but I think for 170 points, this guy still stacks up. I mean, if you were going to compare it to things like Wonder Woman again, then you're probably not going to say that. I mean, I'm not saying that the Wonder Woman's bad. I'm saying that there's other people for the same points that are better, but that doesn't mean she's not worth the points still. Now, this is an interesting one, Maxwell Lord. About 2 or 3 years ago, when I ordered one of these, I sort of took a look at it and thought, yeah, go on, it might be worth a game. And now, with the changes to mind control and outwit, I'm kind of looking at this and thinking, yeah, go on, it might be worth a game. Because in the end, I never did put this together because his keywords are Black Lantern Core, Checkmate, and Ruler. Ruler's a terrible generic, Checkmate's a terrible keyword, and, well, Black Lantern Core, I don't have a whole bunch of them. I only ordered this guy because he was, you know, he's cheap. So we're not interested in the Checkmate trait. What we are interested in, Maxwell Lord can use mind control, but you may assign a hit target two actions, as free actions instead of one. One of the two must be a move action. So it gets a full move action, it gets a half move action, and it gets its regular action. Now I think that's pretty good. He doesn't benefit as much from the outwit because of the fact that it's only on clicks 1 and 4. And he's got regular mind control in his last 2 clicks. But ultimately, and I think you can steal energy on mind control, or do you have to do damage? I'd figure you probably have to do damage. That would be cool if he comboed both, but yeah, I think if we got a redo of a Black Ant one, we probably would, but don't know. But yeah, like, it's funny, like, back in the day it was like, maybe he's worth 78 points, and now I'm looking at him and thinking, maybe he's worth 78 points. I mean, maybe you don't need to chuck someone right the way down the board, but if there was someone pesky in your opponent's starting area or something, for example, you could just run it straight down their end and just boot them in the face, and then they're out the way. The thing in the starting area is probably dead, assuming you hit, and, you know, a lot of stuff is out the way. This is a guy that I really want redone. Scar. I would like a version of this dude, lower point value, better dial, exact same traits, maybe slightly different. So he's 237 points, which is a ton of, like, value, isn't it? It's like far too much. But whenever a friendly character would use steal energy to heal, instead heal 1 damage on any character on the map. Now I think that would be better if it was whenever any character on the map would use steal energy to heal, instead heal any friendly character on the map. But I'm not going to quibble with it, because it's still pretty good. But especially since if you KO someone, everyone's steal energy is going to go off, and then you can basically decide where all of it goes. Which means you could just sacrifice healing everyone 1 click to heal someone all the way up, which is incredibly cool. But 237 points for the pleasure isn't very good. He does have quintessence, so he's got willpower, so that's one thing he does have going for him over a lot of figures. And on these 4 clicks here, he has prob, and once per turn he can also force an opposing character who rolls a d6 for regeneration to re-roll that roll. Now I think that's really cool. So I think if you bump this up to an 18, put a couple more impervious clicks in, a couple more invulnerability, drop this to about 130, give him steal energy on most of the clicks, or a traded steal energy as well, and give him maybe a bit of movement attack, I think this would be a great figure, and I think it would definitely be worth playing, and I absolutely would. Problem is, with the 237 point value on him, I don't think I'd ever play this guy, even just to test him out, as much as I would like to. And finally we get to the next lot of chases with Black Lantern Core keyword. So we've already seen 3, we've already seen Necron, we've already seen a Super Rare Prime, and now we're going to see another set of chases. Now none of these are very good anymore, and you know, they are about 10 years old, so it's understandable. So now, the powers that some of these have are cool. Now, this Black Hand, for 111 points, at the beginning of your turn, choose red, orange, yellow, green, light blue, or purple. And this turn, opposing characters within 8 squares of Black Hand displaying a power of the chosen colour, modify defense value by -2. So that's really cool. Black Hand can use Psychic Blast on his first 4 clicks. Whenever an opposing character is KO'd within 4 squares of Black Hand, you may heal 1 damage on any one friendly character to whom Black Hand can draw a line of fire. So you could choose any character with this, and then change it with the other Black Hand. and heal someone else. I think. I might have to check the wording on that. But he's got no defense powers apart from regen, a bit of sporadic regen as well. He's got outwit, but there's no stealth with it, except on his last click. I get that the idea was to give him as few colours as possible on his dial, but yeah, he's not going to stack up these days. Neither is this guy, Marsh Monitor. 187 points, 17 defense with toughness. Now, I'm not just bashing on old figures here, because, you know, I still use stuff from Infinity Challenge sometimes if I think it fits the team. But the fact is, I want to play a figure this big with toughness in those days. And I can prove that, and I will do so in a minute, but I'm going to do that when I talk about Kal-El. So his power level's rising. When an opposing character is KO'd within 4 squares of him, you may heal him with 1 damage. That's cool enough, I suppose. You can use Plasticity, Phase, and Teleport. Whenever an adjacent opposing character fails a breakaway roll, deal that character 1 damage after the action is resolved. So that is also cool. He's also got a random 5 in the middle of his dial, which is nice. Sporadic speed powers, though. This is just irregular. And this 8, sorry, would also put me off. And he's got a lot of 9s in general. So he's got very low numbers, so he hasn't aged well at all. And this sort of chases are so expensive that they aren't worth wanting. And the only thing that's worse than that Marsh Monitor's defense is this one, Kal-El. 254 points, toughness. I can't argue with the 19 defense though. And the 5 damage is pretty cool as well. I'd maybe have given this guy a go back in the day purely because he was Black Lantern Corps. I could say the same about Marsh Monitor, but maybe I'd be wrong. And I know for a fact that back in the day I'd have definitely been worried about playing something with toughness at this high point level, even though I was like 10, 11 at the time. And I can prove that in a second, as I've already said, and I will do. When an opposing character is KO'd within 4 squares of him, heal him with 1 damage. I'm glad they changed it to any opposing character, because that is a terrible trait. On his 2nd to 5th clicks, he can use Flurry for each character successfully hit. You can use Force Blast as a free action targeting that character, so that's cool. And he does have 11 clicks in him, but for 254 points I'd want a long dial, especially if I'm relying on toughness. Now the reason I keep saying that I can prove that I wouldn't have played these two guys back in the day is because back in the day I pulled a Sinestro from DC 75, which is a set after these guys. It has a click, 1 click of toughness that could easily be pushed off, and I never played this figure. I liked having this figure, but I never played it because of this 1 click of toughness. Actually, no, yeah, I did. I played a Sinestro core team of the old Lizardrak, the old Scarecrow, and this, and it was terrible. It was another loss for the Sinestro core. But the fact is, if I wouldn't play him for 1 click of toughness, I ain't going to play those guys for their point values. The one chase that I do think is still pretty cool is the old Necron. Now, I think the dial is, you know, he's got a bit of a cheesy grin going on, but, and you know, he's fucking minuscule, but I think he's cool as hell. I mean, I'd have been off-put playing 18 with Energy Shield back in those days, but I'd played Wizard Shazam with that, and he was pretty cool. So, on clicks 2 to 5, he has Pulse Wave as if he had a range of 8. After the Pulse Wave action is resolved, each hit character is knocked back 2 squares and it can't be ignored. So that's pretty cool. He's also got Outwit and like 4 damage at the start. He has no movement attack, but I suppose I can let him off. And on these last 5 clicks, which is a bit of a shame, it would be more fun if it was just on his dial or traded even. Whenever an opposing character is KO'd during your turn, within 8 squares of Necron, they are considered KO'd, but don't remove them from the map and heal them of 1 damage. After all current actions have resolved, that character becomes friendly to your force, and you may immediately assign them 1 action as a free action. After this action is resolved, remove that character from the map. Now this was stepped up by Colossal Necron into what was essentially a Quinjet ID card move, calling them in until they take damage and then removing them. But this is cool, especially for the time. This is incredibly cool for the time. I'd have loved this back in the day. The fact that you're not even replacing them with Black Lanterns, you're just turning them to a weak click of their own and then using that. And you only get 1 action out of it, but I think that's pretty cool. And obviously, bringing stuff back to life was never going to be a big thing, and was never going to be a big thing back then. So, yeah, you know, you can... it might seem a bit weak, but I think it's awesome, and I think it was pretty good for the time. It does have some 8 attack values that would put me off. Like this at the time, the 16s and 15s, I wouldn't have even bothered about. They were pretty standard back in the day. Um, I'd give this game now just out of sheer interest to see how it would go. I think relying on phase and teleport, mind control for movement powers is a bit lame, but you know you can only do so much with Necron. I mean, he didn't really move around a whole bunch, did he? So I mean, with a figure like this, you want him to stand at the back and do do a couple of shots every now and then, and do his Blackest Night stuff. You don't want to be running him around. Plus, he's only got 2 range, and you definitely don't want him charging in on anything. All of his like attack powers are basically defensive. But yeah, to conclude, I think that Wizkids do hate the Black Lantern Corps. I don't think they see a great deal of support. They see so much of it that's incredibly high rarity, and anything that's low rarity just seems to rarely be any good, with the Captain Boomerang being the obvious exception, and Aquaman and Lizard Drac as well. And the reanimates aren't bad, especially at the time they were pretty cool, but yeah, all in all, I think Wizkids have a problem with making Black Lanterns as strong as they should be, and I think it's a bit of a shame. I really do. Because there's so many cool things I'd like to do with these, but I'm just put off playing them due to not having them because they're also high rarity, or, you know, just struggling to be willing to play some of them, or to get some of them. Like, I'm just not willing to get the Hal Jordan because it's just not good. Like, I'm not willing to pay anything for it even. So, yeah, I think, you know, they're awesome collector's pieces. They're awesome to trot out every now and then, but they're never going to find consistent play in the state that they are currently in. So, thank you for watching, and subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more keywords, I suppose. Alright, goodbye.